Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. This is Emily. We're going to wait a little bit to see if anybody else joins, and we'll get started in a minute or so. Good afternoon, everybody. To make sure that you can hear me, can you click the raise hand button so I can know that people can hear me? People hear you. Yay! Excellent. Thank you. Okay, great. Let's get started. So today I'm going to talk about the draft homeless system performance reports that we've just released to you all and to county leads. They're currently in a draft form, but you can feel free to check them out. So we're going to talk about those reports, what's included in them, how to find information, the different features that you can use in the reports. And then we're going to talk about changes to the unsheltered prioritization results and the future of performance reports, which is going to include project level reports. So we'll talk about what's the next steps with that. So you can ask questions at any time by typing them in the question box, and then we'll also pause at the end of each agenda item to unmute people to ask questions. Okay, so let's take a look at the reports. So this is the Commerce Housing Assistance Unit landing page on the Tableau public site. So I sent you all the link to this. There's also a handout included that has the link for you to save. Or if you go on to the Tableau public site, you can type COM-HOW, H-A-U, and get to this landing page. So the first report that we're going to look at is the county report card. And that's here. You can see it's still in a draft. We're going to look at that. Click View to open that one. So this is the winter 2018 edition of the county report card. So this is 1 year after the winter 2017 edition that is still on the public site. So we've made some changes. You can see the performance measures are in a ribbon across the top of the page now, rather than clicking through filters to get to the different performance measures. So we have total project entries, length of time homeless, exits to permanent housing, returns to homelessness, and unsheltered entries. So right now what we have displayed is the statewide data. So this is for the entire state of Washington where we're at on these performance measures. The map, excuse me, the colors in the map represent a data quality score. And to find out more about how we calculated that, you can hover over this little eye symbol, and it gives you the tooltip that shows you how we calculated data quality. So the darker the color of the county, the better data quality score they have. And just briefly, what we used to measure this was HMIS data quality and data quality on the annual expenditure report that counties submit. If you scroll down, you see entries by project type here. So that breaks out the project enrollments by shelter, homelessness prevention, permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, transitional housing, and other permanent housing project types. Over here is the housing outcomes broken down by project type. So up here for exit to permanent housing, this is for all project types together. So in Washington State, with all the project types, 56% exited to permanent housing. Down here, you have that information for emergency shelters, transitional housing, and rapid rehousing. So you can see here that in Washington, our rapid rehousing programs exit 79% to permanent housing, which is great. This line over here, 80% represents the targets that we've set as a state. So you can see how close or far away we are from targets. Down here is cost data, cost per day, cost per average project stay, and cost per exit to permanent housing. So something that's important to remember for this section is that this uses information from the annual expenditure report, which is collected on the calendar year. So this is actually a different reporting period than the information above. So these measures are on the federal fiscal year, and the cost measures are calendar year. And you can find that information here about the reporting periods in this tooltip up here. So let me pause and see if there are any questions so far, or if you would like to ask a question, you could raise your hand and we'll unmute you.
There are no questions, no chats, and no raised hands. Ah, there is a question.
Okay.
Different reporting periods due to cost effectiveness measures being in annual report for legislature?
That is right. So we collect the annual expenditures on the calendar year for our annual report to the ledge. And so that's the only time we get that data. So we use a slightly different reporting period for those measures. And that was the same as the last report card that we released. But yeah, that's correct.
And another question, will Commerce be able to add a note on the report that clarifies that the bottom portion is based on calendar year?
Yes, that is there. That's already there. So if you look in the, wherever you see this little I symbol with the circle, there's that's called a tooltip, and there's additional information in there. So that's the first thing you'll see is the reporting periods. So it's calendar year 2016 for the cost data, and federal fiscal year October 1st, 2016 to September 30th, 2017 for all other measures. So that's right there in that tooltip.
One more question.
Okay.
Has there been an analysis of calendar year costs as matched to performance measures during that calendar year?
Not sure if I understand that
So
question.
have we taken cost data for a calendar year and arbitrarily taken performance data for the same calendar year and matched those two data sets up?
Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah. So down here where you get the cost per exit to permanent housing. So all the data in this bottom area for cost uses the same reporting period. So the cost data is from the calendar year, and the exits to permanent housing are for the calendar year for these measures. So like cost per exit to permanent housing, you're using the total operating expenditures in the calendar year, and you're looking at the number of households exited during the calendar year. So it's using the same reporting period for those measures. Good question. Any other questions?
That is it for the time being.
Okay.
Next section.
Okay, so like I said, all of these little I symbols have tooltips that have additional information. To get information about how each of these measures were calculated and what kind of project types are included, you can hover over and it gives you some more information. For the measures that are from the HUD system performance report, you can also link here to the videos that HUD produces that explain how that is calculated, which I think are really helpful to watch. So this is for length of time homeless. If you click on permanent housing, if it would, oh, there we go. See links to the video here. So there's information about how each of these things were measured and calculated in tooltips all over the report. Data quality score, and then all of the cost calculations are here too. And we hope that they're really clear, but if you have feedback and maybe you read through them and you don't think that they're clear enough, just let me know what you're confused about. Maybe we can make the language better. So that's important to know. That's where you can find the information. So how you would just look at your county is you'd go to the map and click on your county. I'm going to look at Stevens County for an example. So you can see all of this changed. So now this is just the performance data for Stevens County. And if you scroll down, you can see that everything else also filtered to Stevens County. So they don't have a transitional housing project, so there's no data here. So this is what gives you the customized report just for your county. So if you wanted to print this out or download this, you go down here and you can download that page to a PDF, and it will print on just one piece of paper for you. So to get back to the state, you can just click anywhere outside of the map. Another thing you can do that's kind of interesting is you could filter to a region by doing a control select. So if I want to look at Ferry, Stevens, Fondray, if I want to look at a region together, I can control select what I want to look at, and see now the results are just for those 3 counties. Another way to look at a region is to use these tools over here. So I'm going to use the lasso, and you can basically draw the area you want to look at. So I want to look at kind of a central, you know, if I just want to look at the coastal communities. So that's kind of fun if you want to compare different regions, and or if you work in a regional service area and you want to look at it together. So another thing that we added to this report card is links to local dashboards, and several counties sent in their Tableau sites or their websites so that you can provide additional context and additional information about your community. So for example, Snohomish County, click here. This is a link to Snohomish County's dashboard. So then you can provide additional context for anybody who's looking at the report card. So if you didn't send in a website, or maybe one's in development, you can send that in to me at any time and we can add it. And it doesn't have to be a Tableau site. It could be just your local website where you publish your local dashboards or reports, and we can add that link at any time. I'm going to pause to see if there's any questions.
There are no new questions for you.
Okay. So that is what we call the county report card. Because we changed many of the measures, we don't have it linked to last year's. In the future, you'll be able to use this drop down to go through the different iterations of the report, but right now we're just with winter 2018. However, we have the year-to-year comparison report for you to look at performance over time. So if you go back to the Commerce Housing Assistance Unit landing page, you would select this report, year-to-year comparison, click View, and this is where you can find the information over time. So for federal fiscal year 15, 16, and 17, we have the performance measures we've been reporting on, and here also we have the rental vacancy rate and the point in time count results. And again, the reporting period information is here in the tooltip, the little I. So we had, this was available last year, and it looked kind of similar until you scroll down here where our Tableau mastermind Jamie has added some line charts. and you can select through the different measures to look at the trends over time. So right now I'm looking at statewide data. So I just selected exits to permanent housing. So you can look at all the different measures. If you wanted to look at unsheltered entries, see we're making steady progress there. And then down here is the point in time count. So if you want to look at your county's data in this report, you would just select the county that you want to look at. There we go. And then it will show you the results for the county. I'm looking at Stevens County again. So it filters all of these to the county that you selected. And you can also select several counties if you want to look at a group or a service region together. And also on this report, you can download it here by using this button right here. So that's where you'll find your comparison data to look at. Are there any questions about that?
There is a question. How do you determine the rental vacancy rate?
Okay, that's a good question. So if you click on this tooltip here, this gives the other information is on the main county report card, but this repeats it as well. But down here you'll find the information for rental vacancy rate. And so what I did was I used the UW market rate study or the ACS one-year estimates if they were available. If neither of those were available, I used the 5-year estimates in that order.
ACS being American Community Survey, right?
Yes. Yep. So if you ever have any question about the data source or how things were calculated, they'll be in the tooltips, and it's also on one of the handouts I provided. It's in the webinar. You can choose the file. It's the Homeless System Performance Report Details, and then that gives you just one document that has all of the information together about how things were measured, what were the reporting periods, what's the source, just lots of information like that. So that's another thing that you can use as a reference if you have any questions about calculations or how things were measured.
So we do have a raised hand.
Okay.
Lael Duncan.
Okay.
I'm going to unmute you, Lael. Oh, looks like a PIN number hasn't been entered. So sorry, Lael, you'll have to write in your question or enter your audio PIN. And we have a comment too. Would you like to address the comment, Emily?
Is it nice?
I'll let you decide.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
The comment is, I am disappointed to see this dashboard go public when the data are not accurate. We've thought about that before. What do you have to say about that?
Well, it's not really public in the sense that it's linked to the Commerce webpage. And the only people who have the Tableau site are the county leads and the people, you know, the grantees and stakeholders. And it is still marked as a draft. So it's not going to be linked to the Commerce website until it's final. And if you see that data is not accurate, or if you have questions about your county's data, please let me know as soon as possible so that we can address that.
And I think the other thing to mention about that is we, like every other organization aggregating information and making statements about it in a public way, we work with the information that we have. And it's, especially when it's this complex and this large of a data set, it's never perfect. And that kind of makes that push for data quality even much more important in light of that.
Yeah, so if you notice that there are things wrong with your data or you have questions about it or maybe want to look at the raw data that was used, we can do that. And we're not going to mark it as final until we've addressed issues that have been raised.
Do we have a chance to correct data errors?
Yes, yep. Yeah, we have a county right now has been correcting errors in their annual report, and it's being updated. So yeah, we're already working with some communities on that. So you definitely have a chance to correct things. And you know, Tableau is, you know, it's something that we can also update over time. So it's not like, well, you need to figure, you know, if you find something a couple months down the road that doesn't look right, or you have feedback or a suggestion on, you can still, you know, let me know and we can make changes to it pretty quickly. I mean, we found mistakes in the report card that was released last year, just about 6 months ago, and we're able to change that. So it's not difficult to make corrections. Are there any other?
No, that's it for now.
Okay, great. Okay, so now I want to talk about changes to the unsheltered prioritization results. So I'm going to pull up a document that I emailed that is also available on this webinar for you to download. So as we were doing the calculations for where people were, or where communities were at for the unsheltered prioritization, this year we had access to a larger data set and a better matching methodology. So we actually redid all of the unsheltered results for the 3 years that we've been looking at this. And with access to the larger data set and the better matching, we were better able to find people with a history of unsheltered homelessness. So if you remember, when we look at the percentage of unsheltered entries, we're looking at people who had a history of unsheltered homelessness or fleeing domestic violence within the past 2 years. So there's a look back and a matching involved. For the first year that we did it, we didn't have access to statewide data. So if someone was in your emergency shelter in Thurston County, but they had been unsheltered previously in Clark County, say, you didn't get credit for that because we couldn't see the Clark County or any data integration county data. So now we were able to look back, and there was a lot more matching of people who had a history of unsheltered homelessness or fleeing domestic violence. So we decided to use the new updated data for all of the fiscal years that we've been reporting this, and that is what is on that year-to-year comparison. So in most cases, counties made a huge jump up in the percentage of unsheltered folks that they are serving. So this document is kind of technical, not plain talked at all, because I wanted to be very clear about everything. This document describes the reporting specifications that we used for federal fiscal years 15, 16, and 17. And then here in this table, for each county, we have the percentages that were previously reported. I only included the past years on here because the current year is in the report card. And then we have the updated percentages. So you can see there was quite a bit of change after doing the analysis a different way. So all of that information is on here. And if you keep scrolling, this section is talking about some changes to how we'll be calculating unsheltered, which will start basically now in the year that we're in, effective October 1st, 2017. Because the HMIS data element housing status has gone away, we cannot use that to measure unsheltered anymore. So to identify who is fleeing domestic violence, we're going to have to look at the questions about being a survivor of domestic violence and currently fleeing. So that's important to remember because that maybe doesn't have very good data quality. So that's something to keep in mind, maybe talk to your staff about, that it's going to be important to answer those questions so that you can get credit for the unsheltered homeless that you're serving. So that's a big, two pretty big changes for the unsheltered prioritization measure. Are there questions about that?
There are no questions about that
Well, I'm kind of surprised.
yet.
Well, if you have any questions about that, you can go ahead and ask, or if you need to read through and digest the document, you can email me questions at any time. No? Okay.
Nothing.
Okay. Let me go back here. Oops. There we go. Okay. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is sort of the future of performance reporting here at the Housing Assistance Unit. What we want to do is continue to do these two reports annually. So for the county report card, we'll do those same measures annually, and then also on the year-to-year comparison, we'll continue adding every fiscal year to that to, you know, keep that trend information. So the next thing we want to do is project level reports for each project. And I had really high hopes about this, and I thought, oh yeah, we can do performance reporting on every project. And then I was like, you know, that's really huge. So we're going to start small with that. We are going to first do a rapid rehousing dashboard for the balance of state in Yakima that will have project level performance data. So we're going to roll out these project level performance reports starting with balance of state in Yakima and rolling it out by project type. So we'll do a rapid rehousing dashboard where you can drill down to the rapid rehousing programs in your community and look at their performance data. We'll also include, you know, just more general information like the number of people entered, the number of people served, the number of people exited, and, you know, the performance measures that make sense with a rapid rehousing program. So that's the plan. We'll start by looking at the time period directly after the county report card ends. So it would be looking at the October 1st, 2017 to December 31st, 2017. So we'll start by looking at that quarter and then go on from there. So my idea was to start with rapid rehousing because every community has a rapid rehousing program. Most communities use rapid rehousing more than they use other interventions. But I'm, you know, open to feedback on what you think that we should work on next. Should we look at permanent supportive housing? Should we look at emergency shelters? If you have any ideas about things that you would want to know about every rapid rehousing program in your community, you can email me. In this new position, this is pretty much what I'm doing, so feel free to email me to talk about it or ask questions or make suggestions. Or if you want information now about a project in your community that you're not able to get to, I can assist with that as well. So that's kind of the plan for the future of performance reports that we're working on. And that's all I have. Oh, okay, great.
So
Perfect.
going back to matching performance data with cost data, I understand there would be caveats and in some cases statements about a given community, but I don't see that. Maybe it's an info dot, but I'm not finding it. It's about, can a county give some context to their particular data so that viewers can see that data in the particular context that they want to add?
Yeah, you can do that. So about the cost data, and it's, I first want to point out that if you look on these tooltips, there's a paragraph at the bottom that makes it clear that this only includes operating costs and does not take into account previous capital investments or in-kind services. So there's kind of a general disclaimer about what expenditure data is actually included in here. And then we can add information to the counties if you have an additional comment. For example, King County added a little comment here. You can add additional information.
Can the county representatives add that, or do you need to add that?
Well, yeah, they'd need to email me and Jamie, and we can add that. Now, it's got to be kind of short and sweet. It can't be like a huge thing, but we can add context. And that was also the idea of adding the local dashboards, you know, because there are a lot of communities that are doing really awesome performance reporting that goes way further than what we're doing. So if you have a link, a comment you want to add, your dashboard, Tableau site, just email me that and we can work on that.
So how about doing these report cards quarterly, Emily?
Is that a commerce person asking?
That is not a commerce
Okay,
person.
I was gonna say. Well, so we've thought about that, and the problem with doing it quarterly is we could do the more general performance, like the length of time homeless, permanent housing exits, and returns quarterly. But the unsheltered analysis is like so kind of intense that I don't think it would be possible to do quarterly. And we also are still waiting on that statewide data. So because we don't have the data integration working at this time, I couldn't make a promise that we would be able to do that. Also, the cost data we only get once a year. So my hope is that the quarterly dashboards will also give you information about these performance measures and maybe a variation of the unsheltered entries. Like we could look at of the current entries, who was coming from a place not meant for habitation. So we could report on that, but we couldn't do the 2-year look back. So my thought is that you'll still get pretty high level information quarterly by project type, but they might be variations of these measures. Another thing to think about is when we're looking at returns to homelessness, you know, this is looking at people who exited 2 years ago. So, you know, I don't know if that would be valuable to look at quarterly. Maybe if we looked at people who exited 6 months ago, that might be more important to look at. So those are the kinds of things I've been thinking about, you know, as far as the frequency of the report and our ability to do it. But I think that the quarterly reports by the project type that drill down to each project, I think that that will get to a lot of this higher level stuff.
There are no raised hands, there are no new questions, and there are no chats.
Well,
I
okay.
think we're at the end of our row.
Okay. Well, great. That's all I had. So if you have questions that come up as you're looking through these reports, as you're looking through the documents, feel free to email me. If you have suggestions, let us know. And thank you very much for attending and asking great questions. I'm going to close the webinar now. Have a wonderful weekend.